There is a crow on the wire above your street. You have probably walked under it 100 times without a second thought. But here is something that should give you pause. That crow may know your face. Not your coat, not your car, not the bag you carry. Your face. And if you have ever wronged it, even once, it may already have an opinion of you. Worse, it may have shared that opinion with birds you have never met. This is not folklore. It is one of the strangest and best documented findings in the study of animal minds, and it begins with a man in a rubber mask. In the early 2000s, a wildlife biologist named John Marsloff set out to test the suspicion that crow watchers had whispered about for years. The suspicion was that crows could tell individual people apart, and that they remembered the ones who treated them badly. To test it cleanly, he needed to become a specific, recognizable face that the crows had never seen before. So he and his team put on a rubber mask. An ordinary, slightly odd-looking mask of a human face. Then, wearing it, they trapped a small number of wild crows, fitted them with leg bands so the birds could be tracked, and let them go unharmed. To the crows, this was a frightening experience, and the only thing connecting it to the wider world was that one strange face. What happened next unfolded slowly, over years, across the city of Seattle. Before the trapping, almost no crow paid the masked face any attention. It was just another person walking by. But after the trapping, everything changed. When a researcher put on that same mask and walked through the neighborhood, the crows came undone. They scolded. They gave the harsh, rattling alarm call that crows use for danger. They mobbed, swooping and following, broadcasting to every bird in earshot that this face meant trouble. And here's the detail that turns a curiosity into something remarkable. It did not matter who was wearing the mask. A tall person, a short person, a man, a woman, someone with a completely different walk. As long as the dangerous face was on, the crows reacted. They were not tracking a body, or a gait, or a jacket. They were tracking the face itself. The researchers even gave each location its own unique mask, mixed in with harmless ones, and the crows reliably singled out the one face that had wronged them at that spot, and ignored the rest. Show them the dangerous face and a neutral face side by side, and they would let the neutral one walk right past while they chased and scolded the one they remembered. So how long does a crow hold on to a face like this? The answer, measured carefully in that first study, was at least 2.5 years. The team simply kept showing up in the mask, and the crows kept recognizing it, with no sign that the memory was fading. A single bad afternoon, remembered for years. That alone would be a striking thing for a bird with a brain the size of a walnut, but it is not the part of this story that should unsettle you. The unsettling part is what the crows did with that memory. Because the scolding spread. Over the years that followed, the researchers noticed something that did not add up. They had only ever trapped a handful of birds at each site, a dozen give or take. Yet the number of crows scolding the dangerous face kept growing. It climbed and climbed until, at one location, the proportion of crows reacting had roughly doubled. The warning was spreading outward through the population, traveling more than a kilometer from the spot where the original birds were caught. The knowledge of that one dangerous face had outrun the small group who had actually lived through the encounter. How? The answer is that crows learn by watching each other. When one crow scolds and mobs, every nearby crow notices. They see who the alarm is aimed at. They see the face at the center of the commotion. And without ever being threatened themselves, they learn. Now this face is dangerous to them too. A bird that was never trapped, never harmed, never even present on the original day will take up the alarm as if the grudge were its own. Scientists call this horizontal social learning. You might just call it gossip. And then there is the deeper layer. The one that makes this feel less like instinct and more like culture. The crows passed the warning to their children. Young crows, born long after the trapping, raised by parents who scolded the dangerous face, grew up to scold that same face on their own. They had never been caught. Nothing bad had ever happened to them. They simply watched their parents react, and they learned what their parents feared. A grudge handed down to the next generation, not in the blood, but in the behavior. This distinction matters, and it is worth being precise about it. The young crows are not born knowing your face. There is no gene for a particular human. What they inherit is a way of learning, an attention to the alarm of others, a habit of taking the family's fear seriously. The specific face is taught, the same way a human child learns which neighbors to trust by watching the adults around them. It is learned, not inherited. And that is, in some ways, the more impressive feat. It means a piece of pure information, the appearance of one individual human, can travel through a crow community and down through time, carried entirely by teaching and attention. Which raises a question. What is actually happening inside a crow's head when it sees a face it remembers? To find out, Marzluff and a team of brain imaging specialists did something extraordinary. They scanned the brains of awake, alert crows, while the birds looked at a human face they had reason to remember. Some faces the crows associated with capture. Some they associated with being fed and cared for. And the scans showed that a remembered face is anything but neutral to a crow. When a crow looked at a face it knew, the higher visual and learning centers of its brain lit up, the regions that let it recognize, compare, and recall. But when it looked at the threatening face, something more happened. The scan lit up in the deeper circuits tied to fear and emotion, the same kinds of regions that, in us, handle alarm and dread. The caring face, the one linked to food and kindness, produced a different pattern altogether. In other words, a crow does not just store your face as a picture, it files it with a feeling attached. Danger or safety, a label that says approach or beware. You might wonder how a creature this small carries so much. The answer is in the wiring. Crows belong to a family of birds whose brains, ounce for ounce, are astonishingly dense with neurons, packing in as many as you would find in a much larger primate. And a remarkable share of those cells are concentrated in the regions used for learning and memory. A crow's head may be small, but the brain inside it is built, more than almost any other, for paying attention and remembering what it sees. So let us end where we began, but stand a little differently under that wire. It is easy to think of the crows in our streets as background, as scenery, as interchangeable black shapes against the sky. They are not. To a crow, you are not scenery either. You are an individual, a specific face, sorted into a category that the bird may carry for years and pass to its neighbors and its young. The good news is that the sorting runs both ways. The same memory that holds a grudge can hold gratitude. There are stories, charming ones, of people who fed crows faithfully and found small offerings left behind, a bead, a button, a bit of bright metal. Take those stories lightly, but take seriously the thing underneath them. You are known. So the next time a crow watches you from the wire, look back. Somewhere behind those dark eyes is a face, and it might just be yours.